Hi everyone, my name's Alita Davis and I'm here today to talk about the wonderful little village of Allen and the Allen Historical Society. And I have become very interested. As of last year, I did a wonderful play, which our president, John Culp, will be telling you about. And I just became just fascinated by Allen itself and what a lovely place it is, and that the Allen Historical Society is doing a lot of wonderful things that you may not know about. So first of all, I'll introduce our guest today, John Culp,
Thank
the
you for having me,
president
Alita. I appreciate it.
And
Yep.
perhaps first you could tell them how long there has been an Allen Historical Society, and then something about Allen and why it's such a wonderful,
Oh.
quiet little gem of a place.
It's very kind of you. We organized ourselves in 1995, and we were granted our 501c3 nonprofit status in 1996. So I think we're either 20 or 21 years old, depending upon,
Excellent.
And our founder was a man who grew up in Allen. His name is Dr. George Shivers, and he was the spirit behind the founding of the Allen Historical Society.
Oh.
He knows everything I think there is to know about Allen's history, and he wanted to preserve it. And he brought a lot of us together, and we founded the Historical Society. So,
Well, how important is it, from your perspective, to have somebody with that historic background about the area?
Oh, it's very important. Thankfully George has written a lot of it down so that there is a historical record. But we're learning all the time. There's always more to learn.
Yes.
And the history of the Lower Shore is so interesting and so old. I mean, it goes back so far. We believe that the village of Allen was founded in 1702.
Wow.
Yeah,
That beats Salisbury.
But it's actually probably older than that. We just don't have any written records. But we have proof of people living in what is now Allen, beginning in 1702. So
what kind, do you know, what kind, I know Salisbury was a main trade center. What, was Allen mainly a farming community?
It was mainly a farming community, and what brought people to Allen was that in the 1700s, a grist mill. The Passerdike Creek goes through Allen, and or did at that time. The creek was dammed up to create a race for a grist mill, and a grist mill was built, had a water wheel, and you can actually we still have the grinding wheel.
Oh.
That was in the grist mill, and if you look real carefully, you can also still see where the race was.
Oh my goodness.
So that was that's what brought people to Allen.
Well, that, I know the grist mills contributed a lot to the success of the communities, and I think there were 2 or 3 in Salisbury during the 1800s.
Absolutely. So, and then, surrounding it was farmland and that sort of thing, but a little village developed.
Well, driving through, I noticed it looks like beautiful farm country.
It is.
And that's what struck me, and there's still, it's just a clean, it's not developed. It's not overdeveloped. You still see a lot of the original homes that were standing during the Civil War, don't you?
There's a few. This was another reason why we founded the historical societies, because some of the some of the older homes, the oldest homes, were decaying and were going to rack and ruin, and a number of us felt that detracted from Allen, that Allen needed some connections to its history, and one of the things we want to do is preserve what we can of the physical history of Allen. Yeah.
And I think dealing with the Maryland Historic Trust and Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, that's what is important to them, to have a community that has a strong interest in preserving their historic areas, and which is unlike some of the other local places here I can think of.
Yeah, we want a personality. We don't want to be just a bedroom
Yes.
community for Salisbury. We want a distinct personality, and we think that's what the Historical Society
Yes.
helps to bring to Allen. Yeah.
Well, another interesting thing that I just found out was, and it's kind of unique, I understand that Allen has no mayor, and I think that's wonderful.
No. One thing I should mention, then I'll speak to that. Because the creek was dammed up, Allen's original name was Upper Trap.
Okay.
That's what Allen was known as.
Okay.
And I can't speak to the year, but there were other traps.
Yes.
Okay. So the post office began to refer to Allen, what is now Allen, as Trap Allen. And they used Allen because that was the name of the postmaster.
Really?
So eventually the Upper Trap was discarded and Allen became Allen because of the name of the postmaster.
Well, I guess
Very
they
simple reason.
couldn't decide what to name and said, hey, here's
Yeah.
the postmaster. We all know his name.
Yeah. So
Everybody knows Allen.
yeah. So, but we are not incorporated. We do not have a government. We are not
About that.
incorporated. We do not have any boundaries. As people now love to say, Allen is a state of mind. That if you
love it.
believe that you live in Allen, we don't care if you're in the middle of Florida. You live in Allen. In our minds, you live in
That's wonderful.
Allen. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
State of mind. But it's an interesting place because there is an energy and there are people that are very interested in that little village. We're not a big village, but there's an ethic of participation
Yes.
and of activities that you sort of absorb when you come to live there. And
Yes.
There's stuff going on regularly. In Allen.
Well, that's what I noticed. The first, I've only been to 2 of the meetings so far, but that's what attracted me. I felt that passion in the people
Yeah.
who were sitting there on the board during the meeting, and that as you said, participation. Everybody
Yeah.
had ideas and different parts they were going to
Absolutely.
play. And speaking of things like that, you have a lot of interesting events going on down there that many people may not know about.
We do.
And I know there's a lot going on everywhere, but, take a second look at what's going on at Allen.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the things?
I would. First thing I'd like to talk about is on several occasions we've had what we call a cemetery walk. We tried to do the cemetery walk on October 18th, but Hurricane Matthew and
Yes.
the rain and everything forced us to postpone it. We're going to try to have it again, I think, on November 19th.
Oh, okay.
And what the cemetery walk is this. Of course, we feed you dinner. There's always
That's important.
food in Allen. Okay. But then we have actors standing by the grave sites of our forebears, of people that lived in Allen years and years ago. And we try to be in period costumes and that sort of thing. And we will have researched their lives. And in some instances, people knew them personally. And we try to talk as if we were them about our lives, what we did, how we lived, our children, what was going on in Allen at that time. And it's very interesting. Researching people's lives is fascinating.
Because you don't know what you're going to find
You don't
out.
know what you're going to find, and there was all sorts of people. And so we've done that on several occasions. We're going to try and do it again. And this
That's
is
great.
in keeping with the mission of the Historical Society. We have, not only do we want to preserve the old in Allen, but we also want to educate people about the history, really, of that area of the lower
absolutely.
shore.
That's so important.
It's so
and
so
the
they get a sense
ties.
of who we are, where we came from, why things are the way they are.
Well,
that sort of
you have, that's what's really great, because you have so many people that are there who still know the history that goes way back.
Yes.
Where a lot of places there have been, been more transient,
Yes.
and there aren't enough people that know these things.
Essentially, the Historical Society is made up of both. It was founded by George Shivers, who grew up there, and his family goes way back.
Oh, yes.
My wife's family goes way back, but a number of members of the Historical Society are fairly new arrivals.
Like me.
Exactly, but they want to know about life
Yes.
in that area too.
We need
So
to be educated.
we need to be
and
educated.
I'm just, I'm just getting more excited. I mean, the more I learn about it, I'm so attracted to it. But tell me more about the cemetery walk.
Yeah.
What is the meal? What kind of food are you
Oh,
planning?
well, we
That's
have.
important.
Yeah, that's important. I guess this time we were talking about having chili and salad and bread and
Oh, yum.
dessert. That was a variety of chilies.
Yes.
In the past, we've had like ham or chicken or something like that, but it's nice. It's a nice.
Chili's nice
dinner.
for cold weather
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And then
so,
the actors will be in the spirit of things,
in
right?
the spirit of things. Now, if we do it November 19th, we're taking a chance on the weather. So we may not be at the grave sites. We may have to move it into the church.
But if it's nice, I guess what you've done in the past is that the guests have dinner and then they actually walk to each
Exactly.
spot that I think 4
Right.
or 5 spirits will be there.
That is correct.
And they get to meet the spirits of the people lived
Right.
in town and are buried there. They'll
Right.
be at their resting place talking
And sometimes
about them.
we have people from that family that they're representing their
Oh, that's
forebears,
really neat.
which is really interesting.
Yes, that's
So,
very exciting.
some other things we do. We have a series of breakfasts. The community seems to like that because it gets everybody together. It's
Oh,
not
yes.
expensive. It's first thing in the morning, so they can go about their business. The next breakfast we think will be December 3rd,
Okay.
and it'll be breakfast with Santa.
Oh, nice.
And we'll serve a wonderful country breakfast. There's always plenty of food in Allen, and then we'll have Santa there.
Now, that is what time?
7:30 to 10.
7:30 to 10.
At the Allen Community
and
Hall.
what is the cost?
$7.
$7. Now,
But children 6 and under are free.
oh,
Children 6 to 12 are $5.
oh, that's wonderful. Now, if anybody is interested in coming to the breakfast, and I hope you will, and you can come without your children too, right?
Yeah, oh sure.
Grandparents can
Any-
come that are missing their
any
children.
age can sit on Santa's lap.
That's right, because we all need gifts.
We all need gifts.
But who would they contact? What's the best contact information?
Well, let me give you my home phone.
Okay.
And I'm probably the best person to talk to. 410-546-2043.
And do you want
Now,
to...
the breakfast, no tickets, just show up.
You just show up. They don't need a count on that. But
Cemetery
the
walk,
cemetery walk we do need.
We sell tickets. That's
And
correct.
you need to call and pay ahead so
Right.
we can know how many people are coming. We don't want to make chili for 100 and
Right.
25 people come.
Well, and we cap the cemetery walk because of the number of people we cap because of the logistics. We have to
Yes.
feed, and then we have to go down to the cemetery, and we break them up into smaller groups. And you can't have a cast of thousands,
Right.
and nobody really enjoys it very much.
So your limit is
is
100.
100.
So you need to call ahead quickly. And please, if you missed the one we had scheduled, call and let us know if you can come. It's going to be a fun event.
Yeah.
And so we have the Breakfast with Santa. Is there any? Oh, we have one more event on November 5th.
Yes, and you know more
And
about that than I
I'm
do
gonna talk
because
to
you're
you-
the chairman.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about this
Okay.
event. This is actually a rescheduled event from another location, and it's going to be really exciting. I think all of you have probably watched The Long Island Medium, Teresa Caputo. You've read Sylvia Brown's books, and I know a lot of people are thinking, how come I just wish I could meet a psychic? There's nobody around here. Well, we have a psychic, Dr. Carol Polio, who is coming on November 5th to Allen, and we're going to hold this in the Allen Community Hall, which was once a one-room schoolhouse.
That's correct. It's historic too.
Yes, so we have lots of energy there, and Dr. Polio is actually going to do a seminar called Connecting with Spirit from 10 to 3 on November 5th, and she's going to talk about her life as a psychic. We've all wondered what it's like to be born with these gifts that you don't know how to handle. In her case, sitting in the classroom, hearing what the other students were thinking, and how she's dealt with having the gifts of a psychic when she's actually a doctor of environmental biology. A scientist. Scientists aren't supposed to have these gifts. So she's going to talk about her gifts, and then we're going to break for lunch, which is included. And we're going to have ham or turkey sandwiches and beverages and chips, and I think we're having brownies for dessert. And after lunch, we're going to investigate the differences between psychic gifts and paranormal investigations.
Wow.
So she's going to have some of her little instruments they use to investigate psychic, paranormal rather, happenings, and you'll probably get to try these and see it for yourself. And we have the cemetery, which is closed, and of course the hall was once a one-room schoolhouse, so there might be some interesting things happening there. Also, if you want to have her do a reading, she will do that after the seminar is over. For $10 additional fees. So if you're interested, you can contact me about this so that we can keep a list. We already have several people who have signed up for this. And contact me at my home phone, 410-749-5168, or my email, allmanor, ALLMANOR, @comcast.net, and we'll make sure that you get a place, because we have a little limited seating for this as well. Now, that's all our current events, but you've had some other interesting things in the past, and are these going to be regular events that you have?
So far, the breakfasts and the cemetery walk are pretty much our calendar.
Okay.
Yeah.
For next, as far as this year.
Correct.
What about next year? You have something called Spoons and Tunes?
We have had Spoons and Tunes where we call on local musical talent. We'll have a recital in the church, all local talent from the area, so that people can see what kind of talent is maybe living next door or whatever. And that's been a lot of fun. And of course, we also have dinner. There's always food. So, yeah.
Now, do you have a set price for that? Since it has dinner, do you remember?
Yeah, I don't, actually, I want to say $20, but my memory, it's been 2 years since we did that, so.
Maybe we can revive that again. So stay tuned for the Spoons and Tunes, and if you are a local performer, and you play an instrument or you sing and you might be interested, you could contact John or me about this.
And we ought to mention in the spring, we're talking about the Civil War.
Oh, yes.
And perhaps you ought to speak to that too.
Well, we're planning an event in the spring. I can't remember the date. It's in April.
I think it's April 22nd.
We're going to have a Civil War Heritage Day in Allen, and this is quite wonderful because we're right there in the cemetery, the church. Union soldiers camped in the cemetery, isn't that correct?
Yes, indeed.
And quite a few of the residents were a little more than a little distraught over that. Regardless of where we're from now, I'm from the north, and John, where are you from?
I'm from the other side of the bay.
Okay, so we grew up with the Union. We didn't think much about being the Confederate side, but since I've been down here, I realized that this was, even though Maryland was a Union state, the Eastern Shore was almost 100% Confederate.
Yes.
And we had a lot of our soldiers who were drafted into the military. Even though they had Confederate sympathies, they were put into the Union lines, and many of them did escape and ended up going back to joining the ranks of the Confederacy. So we have tried to have a little bit of the Union and I'm saying a little bit because it's hard to get Union reenactors. But we have Union Confederate soldiers for the event. We have vendors. We have food for sale, wonderful food. And we'll have probably some music, sing-alongs and different things of music from the period. And this is going to be a wonderful all-day event, pretty much from 10 to 4. And if you're interested in being a part of this, if you're selling something that would have been around at that time period, handmade articles, if you are a reenactor, or if you just want to show up in your historic clothing. It's not a costume, it's historic clothing. So that you can be a part of it and enjoy the day. It'll be outside, and we'll have exhibits. We have wonderful exhibitors of weapons, medical instruments, different things, maybe some timelines on some local history. We're not sure yet because we're just in the planning stage, but keep that date in mind, and we'll be back with you to talk with you more about that when we get towards that date a little more, once we get through Christmas and we can go into heavy planning of this. But we've already got quite a few people lined up who are participating and are very excited to be having this in Allen.
Last year, of course, was the what was it, the 150th anniversary
Yes, of the Civil War.
Of the end of the Civil War. So we wrote ourselves, which was an enormous effort. I don't know whether we'll do that again, but we wrote the play ourselves, and got the actors and the costumes and that sort of thing. And it was a play about the greater Allen area, the lower shore, during the Civil War, and what it was like for specific families. And again, it was fascinating. If you remember, there was one family that was opposed to the war in general.
Yes.
And if you showed up as either a Union soldier or a Confederate soldier, and you were trying to get home or running away, they would hide you. Didn't care what side you were on, they would hide you. And we talked about what it meant for black families, and it was fascinating. We were very, very proud of that. We have a CD, if anybody'd like to purchase a CD and see what we did. It's not Broadway, but it was very, very informative.
I think it was very well written
It
also.
was well done.
And I was lucky enough to be able to participate, and I played Hester Huffington, who was the sister of William Huffington, who married Clara Gumby, who some of you may know was the Civil War, they didn't call her, she was a Confederate, but I forget, partisan of the South or something, Southern partisan.
She was a spy.
Yes, and she actually came from Fruitland, but she married William Huffington after the war.
Yeah.
And Clara was actually arrested and sent to Fortress Monroe until they could arrange an exchange of prisoners and get her released. And she did meet Jefferson Davis and is said to become a spy for him for a short time.
I learned so much from that. One of the big values of the shore was the fact that that's where the telegraph line went down to Fort Monroe in Virginia. And Fort Monroe, I think, was, if not the only, one of the only forts, federal forts in the South where they maintained control.
Wow.
Where the Federals maintained control. And the only way to talk to that fort was a telegraph line that came down the eastern shore of Maryland.
That's fascinating.
And that's why there were Union soldiers all over the shore, primarily to protect that telegraph.
Yes.
That telegraph line.
And
it was very interesting.
To keep any goods from going out down the river or down the bay to the Confederacy. So it was absolutely imperative that the Union's soldiers, the federal government,
and there's big
obtain
encampment
control
in
of Maryland.
Salisbury. There's a big fort in Salisbury. There was an encampment in Allen at one point. The whole thing was fascinating.
I think there were almost 3,000 soldiers, Union soldiers, protecting the whole perimeter of the shore.
I believe that to be true.
And of course, Salisbury, they were in Camp Upton, up near where the Daily Times used to be. And
that's right.
So we had them camped out in the cemetery in Allen.
That's right.
And various places of the shore had Union encampments there.
That's
It probably was very difficult for the people. And I think one of the interesting things about the play, too, was it showed so many aspects of family life there.
Yes.
And one scene was one of the families where the mother was disagreeing with the children as far as her opinions on the war. And
Yes.
various things.
Yeah.
And then even the many black families, you know, here's the mother who was born a slave, the children, and the mother's still more in the past, and the children want to go fight
Yes,
in the
want to
war.
go fight. And the
Yes.
mother actually came around.
Yes.
She actually, you know, you don't want your children to go get hurt.
Right.
But in that instance, all their motivation was for their children to go fight
Yes.
to earn their freedom.
But how painful as a
painful.
mother to see this is a cost
Yeah.
of freedom, maybe
was-
one of my children.
The whole thing was a big learning experience.
But it was
for all.
wonderful. I could, you know, when you're on stage, you don't, the lights are in your eyes, you can't see the people, but I understand the whole church was full.
It was
and we
full.
ran out of tickets.
Yeah, ran out.
So to see the DVD was wonderful and enjoy the whole show.
Is it a good time for me to talk a little bit about what the money goes for?
Yes,
from
absolutely.
From all these events?
Because that's what we raise money
That's
for.
what we raise money for, and I want people to know what we're doing with their money. The Allen Historical Society owns a couple of properties. We've been fortunate enough to buy a couple of historic buildings
Okay.
in Allen. One is the Pasterdyke Cottage, and as you come to the stop sign, there's only one stop sign in Allen. It's right in front of you, and it was
Okay.
built in about 1830 or so.
Wow.
So it's a historic structure which we have preserved. We're very proud of that. 2 doors down from that is the house that we call the Huffington Polit house. And it is again one of the historic houses in Allen. Paul Tuart, the historian, Lower Shore historian, said that it's a wonderful example from the late 1800s of the kinds of houses that were built by people gracious living in villages and on the farms and stuff. That we are trying to, we need space for display, we need space for offices and that sort, and for events.
Yes.
And this house offers all of that.
Oh, wonderful.
But it's an old house. We are refurbishing it. It's had some damage done to it, and the whole thing is very expensive.
So we need money from events.
And that's what the money goes for.
And what
So,
the other way we raise money would be for restoration.
Sure. Yeah,
Grants.
we look for grants, and of course we get dues from, and we have our events. So, you know, I just want people to know that if you come and support something that we're doing, it's going to go into the
Goes
Huffington
right back
Polit House
into.
to be a museum and a place for lectures and gatherings and some offices for us. So.
And so that's the thing, when you know when you come to have an event and you're enjoying yourself, you're also doing something really worthwhile, because these homes, it's really hard to get enough money to fix them up because they have to be done correctly.
Correct.
And one of the exciting things that you're working on now, please talk about the heritage area.
Yes. Yeah, the state of Maryland has heritage areas.
The Lower Eastern Shore Heritage.
Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area, and they provide some funding, bless them.
Yes.
The state provides some funding to worthy historical projects within those areas. When the area on the Lower Shore was put together, Allen did not have a historical society or
Okay.
a spokesman for our history. So we were not in the area. Lisa Ludwig, who runs is now very actively
Yes.
trying to get our part of the county included in the area, which will free us up and make us eligible for from state grants.
It's
We're
very
very
important.
excited
It's
about
very
that.
important too, because Maryland as a state likes to show as many heritage areas as it can.
Right.
And not only do you get the financial support of grants, but it's wonderful for tourism. And the more heritage
Precisely.
areas you have in a state, the more likely you are to get tourism and people coming
Right.
in to do other things in the area
Yeah,
as well
this is
as
what we
visit
want
your
to do
site.
with Huffington Polit House. We want it to be a stop.
Yes.
Where you've come into our area, you want to know a little bit about the area, you can stop and we will tell you. We'll tell you about the pond and the creek and the winery and the yacht club and
Bordelot.
all the wonderful things in our area. And the 2 ferries. I mean, you know, you're near the ferries.
If you're interested in being involved with Allen Historical Society, you can just be a member, or you can and become, you know, just pay the dues and become a member. What you want to do.
Membership is only $15 for a person.
If you're interested in becoming a member, or if you're interested in coming to any events, please again contact Mr. Culp.
It's OLDEJAY@AOL.com.
And when you do, please let him know I'm interested in attending this event, the Spirit Seminar, the Breakfast with Santa, or the Cemetery Walk, or I want to become a member, yay. And I'd like to thank you, John, for being here today.
My pleasure.
And the wonderful Allen Historical Society for just being there, and George Shivers, of course, for all his work. And we may be having a conversation here with George next month. So thank you so much for tuning in to listen to us, and thank you, PAC 14, for allowing us this opportunity to talk about Allen. Thank you.